How would you say you guys differ now from other kind of similar organizations?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's been a bit of freedom in the fact that I didn't grow up wanting to run a nonprofit, and so we've never had the desire. In a way, we're not even smart enough to know what all the other ones look like and how they function, and you know what I mean? And there was never that intent. Like, our intent was just to encourage people and to move people and to invest in treatment and to talk about community and talk about help and talk about these things. And really, I think more than anything, just to try to be creative and hopeful and bold in the way that we did things. And so I think there's been a freedom in that, to not try to look like everything else out there. I think, especially with these issues, a lot of times you'll see organizations really focus on the problem, and so when you see these issues, you'll see, maybe someone who looks clearly sad, or someone a girl who is clearly struggling with an eating disorder or an arm that's bleeding, and so they'll just really focus in on the problem. And we're really trying to learn, how do you build a bridge from the solutions back to the problem? Like, how do you meet people where they are and in a way that's intelligent and relevant and tasteful, And so I think we've just tried to think through some of those things,
And you guys have done it, in a lot of really unique ways. How many people here, just by show of hands, have a MySpace? Yeah, you guys have revolutionized MySpace. It's kind of interesting to watch. You're getting MySpace awards. I didn't know MySpace had awards. How have you approached?
It's like the Grammys.
Yeah, it's pretty famous. How have you approached that? I mean, how do you go about going, hey, this is a social networking thing that we're going to kind of take to the next level?
Yeah, well, I shared it last night. Like, people give us too much credit. Like, they assume there's these marketing meetings and a team of consultants and people that are really smart.
You look really professional.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been that way. I mean, honestly, early on, when we made the page or signed up for MySpace, I didn't know much about it. I kept hearing about it, and even now our page isn't super tricked out. Like, there's junior high girls with cooler pages than ours. Like, ours is still super basic. I'd never gone to one of the layout things. How there's the funny, cool layout things. Like, we just have it's just basic. I think, but the heart of it is that these are issues that affect people, and we think these issues are important because people are important. We think people matter to God, and so they should matter to us. And MySpace is a kind of a strange, wacky, alternate universe, but maybe somewhere in there is the idea that there's people there. Maybe broken people, maybe confused people, but people at those computers. And so what a privilege to try to inject hope and to try to inject truth and a sense of purpose. And I think there's so much there that just feels like hype and feels like fluff, and it can be a really dark, really strange place. And I think we're just trying to show up and in a way bring a different sort of weight to it, and say we're gonna take these things seriously, and we're gonna try to do this well. And it's been amazing to see people respond to that.
Very cool. And when you talk about people, and one of the cool things is these issues touch on so many different types of people. And even in the room tonight, look around, there's a lot of different people that are all affected in different ways. You guys are now reaching people internationally. How has that gone from kind of, hey, we started in Florida, now this thing is just taking off worldwide?
I mean, at first it was so cool, to get messages from people outside of Florida. I remember maybe Amber Lynn was in New York, and we'd get a message from a kid that had been at the show, and that was that's amazing, and then over time we started to hear from people in Australia and England and places that we'd never been, places where we didn't know anyone. And so I think in that way we kind of saw the best of the internet, and we saw sort of the best of communication in this day and age, But I think we learned a lot. We realized these are not American issues. I said it in the video earlier, these are not white issues or issues that only affect young people, and these are definitely not emo issues. These are issues of humanity. These are problems of pain, and these are places that people all over the world, they live with these things. And then we've learned things even within our own country, that 19 million people struggle with depression, that untreated depression is the leading cause of suicide. And maybe the most startling number is this idea that 2 out of 3 people who deal with depression, they don't get help. So this idea that the majority of people who struggle with depression, they walk through it alone. And I think it just points to the sense of confusion and the sense of shame and the stigma that surrounds these things. And yet we've learned it's a conversation that's really hopeful. Depression is something that's very, very treatable. And so it's been, I think, a privilege just to come in the face of those lies and say, hey, these are things that we can talk about, and these are things that need to be talked about, because these are places that we all live. I mean, these are places that I live, So it's been, we've learned a lot, but it's been a privilege, the whole thing.
you guys have been able to go out with like a lot of bands and spend a lot of time on the Warped Tour, and you guys kind of voted that that award. And what's that been like? I mean, many of us have been to concerts or shows like that. What's it like to do what you guys do in that environment where you're probably the minority, and probably a lot of people are going, what the heck is this, and what is this about? Kind of what are those stories?
No, it's cool, man. I think Warped Tour, we didn't know what to expect, and I mean, it's kind of the sense of being the new kid in school, and so we won this favorite trend award. Like at the end of the year, all the bands, all the crew, catering, everyone on the tour votes for these funny different things, best tour manager, best bunk, and so we were voted favorite trend on the tour last summer, and it's kind of the equivalent of like the new kid who was worried he'd sit alone at lunch, like winning most popular, and so it was just so surprising. But I mean, we have so much, we love music, like most of our team, myself, Renee, like we're fans of music, and we believe that music is significant, that it has the ability to move people, to remind us that we're alive, to remind us it's okay to wrestle with things, it's okay to scream sometimes or ask questions, and so we think it's significant, like it's powerful, it's not just a marketing vehicle, and to have the respect of some of our favorite artists means the world, because we look at them and say, hey, we believe in the songs that you write, we believe in the art that you make, and for them to say, hey, we believe in the work that you're doing, like it means a ton.
And when you see that, and I don't know about you guys, but kind of you start going on your website, you see all these musicians, you go, wow, that just looks so easy, like everybody's on board with you, and kind of gets this appearance like, well, everybody just likes what you're doing, and everybody wants to get on stage and wear your shirt, and it kind of can look like, man, that's been a really easy process. But just kind of talking with you, you've shared some of the really hard moments and the stumbling blocks, and just moments where you gotta kind of wrestle with God and go, I still got to do this, and I got to push through this. And one of the stories you shared with me was this experience you had with Hot Topic, which is a store that many of you may be familiar with. But what happened with Hot Topic, and how has that kind of shaped you guys?
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, Hot Topic is a store in the mall. They have 700 stores around the country, and it's a place that's not typically synonymous with hope or help. It's a dark place.
They sell a lot of black clothing.
Yeah.
If that
I said last night, and I believe it's probably accurate to say they pay Marilyn Manson's mortgage, most likely. So we were surprised to get a call from them saying they wanted to carry our shirts, and so we kind of talked about that and thought about it and said, man, that'd be really special to have something hopeful in a place that's pretty dark, So we had to send them samples, so we sent them our shirts, and they approved them, and it's all this corporate process, and they said, oh, great, and so they placed this big order, like 10,000 T-shirts, and we sent the shirts in, and after, I mean, the weekend is significant because that's when people are out shopping. So Monday we get this email like, hey, your shirts are the best-selling T-shirt nationwide for us, #1 shirt for the company, and we're like, that's amazing. And then 2 hours later we get this email that says, hey, we just realized there's a story printed inside. It was the one that I just read, and the story talks about Jesus, and it also says the F word, and wow, like we didn't know about either of those, and we kind of have a problem with both, and you could tell the J word.
Yeah, the first one a little bit more.
Yeah. So they said, hey, can we return these T-shirts? And we were like, no, like, what are we going to do with them, And so it was really like a heavy day, and I called a lot of people and said, what do we do? And there was all these kind of questions of philosophy, and do you take a stand, or what do you do? And the CEO ended up calling me, like they have 10,000 employees, and this gets to the CEO's desk, and she ends up calling me on my cell phone and says, hey, I'm really sorry for what's going on, and can we talk about this? And long story short, they ended up buying all the shirts, donating them to their employees, and then she let me write something new, and now we have a really good relationship with them, and because of the drama, we're kind of on the radar. Like basically everyone in the company knows what we're doing, and it's been cool. Like it's been really surprising, and the shirts are selling well, and to us, it's just really exciting to have some. I mean, it's basically light in a dark place,